We are discussing the Indian aircraft carrier INS Vikrant, the first warship of this size to be made in India and commissioned in India. The warship is 45,000 tons and will carry a complement of fighter jets and helicopters at sea. Prime Minister Modi at the commissioning mentioned that it is not just a warship, it is the outcome of 21st century's India's determination to be Atmanirbhar or self-reliant. Admiral Soni, we all know the numbers, how big the ship is, what it will do. What does it mean strategically?
Firstly, it is a dream come true. It is the realization of extremely ambitious dream of our forefathers. We got the first Vikrant in 1961. It was actually a new ship which was built for the Royal Navy in 1957, and then since they did not need it, it was transferred to the Indian Navy, and since then Indian Navy has been honing its skills in this new warfare at that time, that is the air version at sea. But an imported aircraft carrier is an imported aircraft carrier. The senior leadership of the Indian Navy had been wanting to build an aircraft carrier on its own. In 2000, they got the sanction. 2005, they cut the steel. 2009, they lay the keel. 2013, the aircraft carrier Vikrant was launched. And now, today, it has been commissioned. Extremely important date. So the fact that it is 76% indigenous, most of the ecosystems of the aircraft carrier have been established, whether it is the designing of the aircraft carrier or building it in our own shipyard, or having big names like Bell and other PSUs who have provided the various components. So it's a very big achievement. We have proved to the world that we are now in the select group of 6 or 7 countries who can make aircraft carriers on their own. Now, the second aspect is that the aircraft carrier adds to the operational capability of the fleet. We have one aircraft carrier, that is INS Vikramaditya, which is in commission. Having INS Vikrant means that no matter what, we are going to have carrier-borne aviation available to us at sea, so that the fleet can be provided with air defense. And operationally, we are that much more capable. So that is the second aspect. The third aspect is, today we are in an era of partnerships. We are partnering the US, Japan, Australia and Quad. We've got France as a very important partner in the Indian Ocean. We have got trilaterals. They're smaller but important partners like Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bangladesh. And all these countries, though they are small, but they are extremely important. And they look up to India to provide them that maritime security. And we take great pride in being called the first responder or the preferred security partner for these countries. And if we add to our arsenal an aircraft carrier, they know that they can rely on us, which means that they would rely less on extra-regional powers. So I think these three aspects are the major gains that we achieve by commissioning of INS Vikrant today.
Admiral, the Prime Minister also mentioned that it's like a floating airfield. Could you explain to our listeners, how is it a floating airfield when this aircraft carries out at sea, say 500 miles out of the coast or 1,000 miles away? What does it mean?
India is a peninsular country. We have a peninsula jutting out into the sea, and which we say is a great advantage to us, because from the southern tip, on an airfield, you can launch an aircraft, and within its radius of operational capability, it will be able to influence the maritime space below. Similarly, we have 1,000 islands, and those islands of Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep Islands, we call them floating aircraft carriers, which means that you can base an aircraft or we can base a ship there and extend an operational range. But with an aircraft carrier, you can extend this range even further. That means if the aircraft carrier was to go to the south of the Indian Ocean, and from there, if you have, say, 25 jets embarked with 6 AEW helicopters embarked within an area of about 300 nautical miles around the island, you are safe, because you can detect an intruder, you can intercept an intruder, and you can influence and carry out, and you can make sure that the other ships in the fleet can carry out the missions that they have been assigned to do, which means it's a floating airfield.
Admiral Soni, we already have an aircraft carrier, the INS Vikramaditya, which was originally sourced from Russia in 2013, and this is the second carrier to join the force. We have operated two carriers earlier in the past also. Possibly this is the first time that the two carriers will have some kind of contemporary technology, both the carriers. I'm not talking of the engines because the engines of the Vikrant are very superior, they're the most modern. But what about the technology part on both the carriers?
For the aircraft carrier, technology of the weapon system, there are very few. There is not so much of weapon system fitted on board the aircraft carrier. Aircraft carrier's main weapon is the aircraft itself. And you have the commonality of MiG-29Ks, which can operate from both carriers. You have the Sikorsky ASW helicopters, which can operate from both carriers. You have the Tomahawk 31 AEW helicopters, which can operate from both carriers. There is a talk of acquiring a new fighter aircraft for INS Vikrant. It could be F-18 or it could be Rafale, which means that there will be a technological jump. These aircraft are superior and at par with the best that are there in the field. So therefore, with both these aircraft carriers at sea, there is compatibility, and they operate more technologically advanced aircraft. They have more technologically advanced EW systems, better machinery, better gas turbines, which means that they are able to operate at long distances without as much failures as earlier.
Admiral Soni, the aircraft carrier also means India's prowess at sea. America has around 11 aircraft carriers, China has 2 operational aircraft carriers, Japan has refitted 2 of its helicopter carriers to fly fighter jets F-35s. Korea has announced a carrier. Is it a kind of an Asian race which we are seeing to make carriers?
Well, we started our aircraft carriers, as I said, long back. In our case, we were very lucky to have inducted the first INS Vikrant in 1961, and we developed this capability to fly at sea. And we nearly lost it because in 97, we had to decommission INS Vikrant, and luckily for us, INS Virat, which was being paid off by the Royal Navy, was acquired by the Indian Navy, and that served the Indian Navy for a very long time and filled this gap until such time we got the INS Vikramaditya. So for the Indian Navy, I would say we are not in any race with anyone. We have been able to preserve this art is a very big achievement. With the commissioning of INS Vikrant, we are sure that this art is going to stay with us for a fairly long time. And if we have the third aircraft carrier, it would mean that we would have the capability to operate 2 carrier task forces at sea. Now, the other Asian countries, they are developing aircraft carriers for their own reasons. China thinks of itself as a world power. They want to achieve it by 2050. They have realized that if they want to be a world power, they have to be a maritime power first. In their ability to acquire that status, they need aircraft carriers so that their task forces can operate miles away from the coast, and aircraft carriers can provide them with the air defense capability. And I feel Japan is acquiring an aircraft carrier because of the expansion of the Chinese Navy and the coercive activities that it has been involved in. So they feel the need to upgrade their fleet. So each one is acquiring this capability for their own reasons. We have an additional reason. In the Indian Ocean region, I think we foresee a threat from an expanding PLA Navy, which after South China Sea would only be too keen to come to the Indian Ocean region and dominate because of the economic interdependence they have with the countries of this region and because the sea lines of communication run through the Indian Ocean region. So we can expect by all their preceding actions that they have taken that they would be deploying an aircraft carrier in the Indian Ocean soon. So we better be as well prepared.
Admiral, we have come across a very good discussion with you. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you. My pleasure.